So in the previous video, I showed you all how to clean this data set, which originally had 500,000 rows of data. We were able to find various types of errors by using different techniques to clean the data. So now the focus on this video is to show you how you can either minimize or prevent these errors from happening. If you missed part one, don't worry, I included the link in the description. So let's start by making sure that our filters are turned off, and then selecting this column, I'm inserting a new column. Proceed or halt is the header name that I want to use. Let's drag this column to make this wider, and then I want to wrap the text to ensure that the entire header is visible. So now selecting this entire column, let's go ahead and change the font size to 15. Let's go ahead and use the format painter to copy the formatting from the adjacent cell. While still in my data set, let's go ahead and insert a table. Let's go to table design, that tab, and now we're going to tone down this color. Now my column A doesn't have any borders, so while my data set is still selected, I want to add them. So now let's go ahead and jump to the top of our data set, and I'm going to go ahead and use a nested formula which will capture our duplicates. Now if you go ahead and look in the formula bar, you can see the formula that I'm using. Now let's go ahead and change this entire column font to Wingdings 2, and now I'm going to center align these icons. Now let's go ahead and adjust the row height for all of the rows except for the header, and we're going to change the row height to 18.5, and now we're definitely off to a decent start. So now let me go ahead and show you exactly how this works. So let's go ahead and jump down to the bottom of our data set, and I'm going to copy an order number. Now if you look to the left of the order number, you can see that there's a check mark. That's my indicator, which shows us that this is a unique order number. Now watch what happens when I go ahead and paste this order number here. And now you can see that we have what I'm using as our stop symbol. That lets the users know that this is actually a duplicate order number. So the reason why I wanted to go this approach and not just fully rely on conditional formatting is because let's say if we have a team member who is colorblind, or if someone sees a shade of color a little bit differently than we do, I wanted to use an actual indicator just to make sure that all of our users who are using this can see things clearly for what they are. So now that I've shown you that, we can go ahead and delete this row because we don't need that anymore. So now let's go ahead and jump back up to the top of our data set, and we're going to add some data validation to column B. Selecting the entire column and pressing Control to deselect the header because I do not want the data validation on my header. So now let's go ahead and go to data, and then we're going to go to data validation. Let's go ahead and right click, and I want to add this to my quick access toolbar so that it's easily accessible. So now that we're here, I want to use list, and for my source it's going to be coat and shirt, and then let me go ahead and add a custom error message that our users will see if they enter something that's invalid. So now if I go ahead and click here, you can see that coat and shirt are my only two options. So now I'm going to go ahead and add the exact same validation for city destination and order status. Now with the quantity column, I'm going to set that up a little bit differently. I'm going to use whole number. My minimum is going to be 1 and my max is going to be 100. And here's my custom message that I'm using. So let's go ahead and add the date validation to the date column. Now I'm only selecting the cells after my last entry and going all the way down to the last cell that's within the workbook. And I'll explain to you why I'm doing that in just a moment. So let's go ahead and select date. For my start date, I'm using equal and today. And in my case, there shouldn't be a date prior to the current date as this information is being entered. And the reason why I'm using the last cell after my entry is because in the data above, there are some dates that are prior to the current date. So to keep from encountering errors, this is the reason why I actually did that. Now, in my case, I wanted to show you this technique by using today because I wanted you to see that you don't necessarily have to use a static date. You have the ability to use a formula. So let's say if you wanted to use like equal today plus 10, because the date that's entered here should always be at least 10 days out, you actually have that flexibility to be able to do that. So whatever date makes sense for your scenario, just go ahead and make sure that you adjust that accordingly. Now for the end date in my case, because my data set does contain data for 2026, all of our consumers should receive their orders by March 1st, 2027. So this is the end date that I'm using. But if you don't want to keep manually adjusting this date, then you can definitely use something like 12/31/99. So now that we have this in, let's go ahead and test this out. So I don't necessarily have to select from the drop-down list. I can type C for coat or S for shirt, and you will see that the entire word will populate. So let's go ahead and add some custom shortcut keys to make this even more user-friendly for our users. So if you look at all of the order numbers for coat, you can see that they start with AX10, and with the shirts, they start with SS10. I don't want my users to have to type this in each and every time. So let's go to File, Options, Proofing, Autocorrect Options, and I'm keeping it simple here. So I'm going to replace C with AX10 hyphen, and I'm going to replace S with SS10 hyphen. So every time the letter C is actually typed, it's going to be replaced with that. So when you set this up, you want to use a combination of unique characters that make sense for your business practice. So the goal here is to set up something short, and then you want to set up something that your users would not ordinarily type. So every time that I type C or a letter that begins with C is going to be replaced by that. So if I'm intentionally trying to type those characters, I don't want this to automatically be overwritten each and every time. This also impacts other applications like OneNote and Microsoft Word. So when you're setting up these shortcut keys, just go ahead and be creative. You can use something like $, C, %. Just type something that makes sense for your users to use. So now let's go ahead and test this out. And I'm just typing in information across the different fields, and you can see that it's definitely working. Whenever I still have my duplicate order number, that's still working as well. So now let's go ahead and add some protection to our worksheet. And you can see here in the formula bar, we can still see the formula that we added earlier. I don't want our users to be able to see this. And so let's go ahead and press Control and 1. And let's go ahead and make sure that locked and hidden are both selected. So now we're going to select our data set starting from column B, going all the way over to the right, and then all the way down to the last row in the worksheet. This is the area that we want to make sure that users have the ability to enter information. So let's go ahead and go back to the protection tab. We're going to make sure that we deselect locked and also make sure that hidden is deselected as well. Now, with the headers here, we do want these to be locked, and we also want to leave hidden deselected. So let's go ahead and go back to the protection tab. Now we're going to go to the review tab. We're going to enter a password, and we don't want our users to select any of the cells that are locked. So we're going to deselect this. So now let's go ahead and select unlocked cells. So any cells that are unlocked, we do want users to be able to select those. And then we're also going to choose auto filter. So we're going to select this. Let's go ahead and re-enter our password. So now that we have this set up, let's go back and test this out. So as of right now, I'm attempting to click somewhere in column A, but as you can see in the formula bar, the formula is not visible. I can't make any changes to column A at all, which is excellent because that will prevent users from accidentally overriding my formula or wiping it out completely. But on the other hand, in the other cells, users are allowed to enter information, and then the users can also still use the filters as well. So the last step with bringing all of this together is to properly train your users on how to use your product. Even though we've put these safeguards in place, there's always still the potential for user error. That's where you have to properly train people and emphasize the importance of entering information correctly. So now, y'all, I got to go ahead and head to my actual 9 to 5. So I will catch y'all in the next one. Bye.